Sorry, Larissa. It's just cut out again. Maybe I'm hoping it's not just, maybe it's just me. Can everyone else just, is everyone else hearing Larissa, or is it just my end?
Let me try and take the headset off.
That is working for me now. Yes.
Is that? Yeah, because it worked perfectly fine before. So
that is perfect. Yeah.
That's excellent. Great. That's working. Okay. Maybe the headset's not happy, Jan. So yes, my name's Larissa Rose. I am the director of GG Enviro. We are an environmental consultancy firm, and we are based down at Currumbin. And we've been around for about 12 years now, doing all different types of environmental assessment, compliance, and everything to do with auditing. So we've done a fair few different services all over our years, from ecological assessment to now doing quite a lot of work in development approval and ensuring all sorts of different projects. Some of the high rises that you see, commercial buildings and semi-residential are all complying with our council codes and regulations. So that's been a big core pillar and part of our work and our business model in environmental consultancy. And as you all know, of lately, we've seen quite a change in progression in the market in terms of taking some environmental social duty of care around what environmental impact is for us in our everyday operations of our businesses, and also what sustainability means to us in our businesses, and really identifying what that means for our clients as well. So we've seen a big shift and change over the last few years, with a lot of small to medium businesses really now wanting to identify and map out and work out what it is exactly sustainable strategies are for them, and how they can embed them as an easy everyday thing without spending astronomical amounts of money, but then at the same time ensuring that they are letting their potential clients and their current ones really know and showcase their leadership in sustainable environmental management. So I thought it'd be, seeing we aren't in a big crowd or anything tonight, we're doing online, I thought it'd be an opportunity. If you've got a question or anything, please feel free to put your hand up while I'm talking and going through stuff. And because sometimes, you know, it's easier to have a little bit of a chat while we're going through it, and you might have something which might be, I can add some value to the rest of the people in the audience who are speaking. So I'll just share my screen now and flick up some, first of all, concepts on embedding sustainability into your business model. So sustainability, as we all know, just has quite a, it can mean so many things, and it has had so many different kind of edgy, some people call it greenwashing, some people call it's a very gray area, and how do you just dissect it? But at the end of the day, we all understand that embedding sustainability is really one of the most pivotal core things that you need to be considering now as you're building out and growing your business model. But that could also be, you don't have to have a huge empire and a team to have a business. It could also just be yourself as a sole trader, or having one or two contractors that work with you as well. It's around you shaping up your vision and values for your business, and what that looks like and means for your clients, your supply chain, and things like that. Now I'm just scrambling because I'm trying to find how I move my slide, because it's not letting me. There we go. I'm in action now. Ta-da. So what is ESG? So this is one of the words that have been around for a very, very long time. And once upon a time, ESG was really only a word that was used for the top 100 sort of ASICs or stock exchange listed companies. So ESG means environmental social governance, and it has a few different acronyms as well, but that's the main one for it. And it's really around the governance and the internal processes and systems that you've got inside your company, and how that supports your clients, your market, and obviously your duty of care to the environment, and how you move and progress going forward. ESG has probably started to morph the word a little bit now, and people have environment sustainability strategies. A lot of our clients like to call it that. A lot of them like to mention sustainability strategy. or their core, sustainable and environmental management strategy. So there's all sorts of different little words that specific people write, or people want us to write it to. It just depends on your style of business model. So what I want to do is I just want to take you through a really 101 as simplified step process as possible, breaking it down into three core steps for you to kind of look at and keep it really, really simple. Now, remember, this is relatable for if you're just small or you haven't even started. These are just really great things to start considering and thinking about as you move and grow and progress your business, or you already might have quite a well-established business and have realized that for tendering or for, going for other jobs, for pitching, that you need to build out your sustainability component of your business model a lot more, so you can talk to that maybe from a branding or in a more of a marketing perspective as well. So we'll move through that. So one of the first steps that we really tend to do when a company approaches us and really wants to work on, they want an amazing sustainability strategy, is we do the full overhaul. And what that really means is that you need to start considering how your business operates and what it's structured like. And what we do is we sit down and do workshops and we map out the whole workflow, the whole process, the supply chain, how you're connected, how you purchase, all of those kind of elements and aspects, your current clientele, and maybe also your future clientele, and or maybe a market that you're trying to tap into. So we take on all those sort of considerations. And when we do that workshop and map it out, which is exactly something that you can do yourself, pen and paper, whiteboard, whatever works for you, bubbles everywhere, whatever you like to do when you're mapping out, just get it all designed out so you can sort of see how that business looks and where your touch points are, because that's where we start building out these core sustainability metrics. But we'll also look at how we can start building out connectivity to some of the bigger, broader sustainability values locally and also globally. So when you're doing that process, it's an opportunity to really pick up on some low-hanging fruit. So when we do this work, we call it a bit of an auditing process as well. Now, when we say the word audit, it's got like nothing to do with when you're accountant or you feel like the ATO have to audit you. We start auditing your water, waste, and energy. So it's one of those sort of baseline steps that we take a company through, because this is the difference between ensuring that you're not greenwashing. And we are absolutely steadfast in ensuring that our customers and clients who we do all this body of work on and for, that there is no like sneaky trying to step away from it and get away with it and have a nice shiny glossy document and have these tangible outcomes written on there, but you haven't got any core metrics to attach to that or a strategy attached to that to showcase that you are looking to try and reduce your carbon sort of emission profile, which is a core part of sustainability. So we do what we call the baseline auditing, which is your water, waste, and energy. And you can absolutely, build that out yourself on Excel if you needed to, where you start looking at actually how much energy intensity that you're using for all of those types of items, all the volumes for waste, and the volumes for liquid, which is for your water. And then you've got your kilowatts or megawatts, depending on the size of your company, for your electricity, and get a baseline year. So we always work with a client and stabilize their baseline year. So due to the fact that we've been having COVID over these last few years, we've been working with a lot of clients, just our recent ones, on doing 2019 as a baseline year. And what you will do from there is that baseline year is something that you will always talk to. So you may see a lot with different companies, they'll talk about 2005, they want to reduce their emissions by their 2005. So that 2005 would be their baseline where they would have done that auditing assessment work. And then from there, they always are talking back to that and using that as where they want to perform better every year. So that's sort of the first sort of phase and component to go through. And when you're doing that work, start taking stock of who you purchase off, where you get things from, and how far away you purchase from as well. Because your emissions profile, which is your carbon emissions and the intensity of carbon that your operations of your business uses to fully operate day in and day out, you need to think about where you're sourcing different products and services from as well. And that's a good time where you're doing this sort of audit to start checking in. Okay, well, we're purchasing from a depot that's always in Melbourne. Like, is there anywhere that's closer in Brisbane that we should be doing it? So it's a helpful sort of process and step to go through as well. Number 2 step is a really great one, because it is where you really start being able to, I guess, it's a little bit more of the fun part where we work with clients to map out your sustainability vision and some of those core values that you want to have. Now, as you know, like most businesses think, oh, I need to have an ethos or a methodology. And that's really good, because that's important, because that methodology or that statement piece that you have really is your point of difference when you use that blurb for all different ways that you talk about your business or promote yourself on marketing and branding materials. But you need to also have your sustainability vision. And that can just be a few words, a few lines with some sort of core value points that you've got in place. So as you can see here, we've got some of our core values at GG Enviro, and we've chosen to use 5. And 5 of those that we do link back to, as I'll take you through and give you some examples, we link them back to some of our core SDGs that we align to, but also some of the projects and the ways that we actually do enact and deliver on our sustainability visions and goals. So when you're in this step again, like another one, mapping out process again, I guess it's a good time to kind of understand how you want to see and position yourself. And by all means, you know, there's so much different examples out there as well. So have a good look around and see how other people are talking to their businesses, specifically in your industry and sector. But also think about how you could look at changing and really stepping up exponentially and pushing out something different about yourself even more with your core values. Now, you don't have to have a lot. You can have 3 core values, or you might just have 2 really main core values for your sustainability, and they might be linked inside your blurb that you have for your vision. So building that out is an important piece, because as you know, that can become a part of this fundamental 5, 10, 2-page sustainability strategy document, which I'm going to encourage you to try and pull together yourself. And you can build that out and have that, you know, attached to your website, but you can also have that attached as, you know, at the back end of your capability statement. But you could also put it inside any of your other kind of tendering or branding or your pitching documents, anything that you've got. So sustainability vision. Now, make sure, Danielle, let me know, but if you've got any questions or anything, or you just want to butt in while I'm chatting, go for it, most definitely. Okay, so next step. Writing your sustainability strategy. So this document, as I've mentioned, is, I guess, probably the way things have been going a lot lately, just as important. We've had such a significant amount of small to medium businesses and even small ones. So we could be looking at employees only up to, you know, 5 or 10 people who have really honed in and understood in their industry or sector, they need to have their sustainability strategy. We had one client who is a big national company realized from a major tendering document that the government now was really asking, not just for their credentials like ISO and certifications, but really wanting them to showcase their ethos and vision statement document and how they are actually going to reduce the emissions that their company actually does. So that was a government tender. So there's been quite a lot of big shifts in terms of that. So you can see if that market's moving, and it's not even policy or regulated, that everyday people are now wanting to understand and see where people's, you know, sustainability vision is. So some of those key things that you might want to shape up inside your strategy is that sort of ethos, which is that methodology or your vision statement part. And then you can look at those sustainability pillars. So some of those pillars might be linked to your core values as well, or you might have word them more as a pillar. But you can just understand, I guess, given the context of your environment that you work in, meaning your industry and your sector and the narrative and the dialogue that's used, you'll know what sort of seems to suit more better and seems more inclined to get a lot more uptake and understanding. So inside that document, it's really important to have your trajectory goals. Now, as I spoke about before, those goals, those ones that we hear people say outcomes, we want to do 50% by 2030 and we want to do 90%, we want to be net zero by 2035, or all these different statements that we hear all the time. That's what you would be saying is your trajectory goal. But I would like to do an exercise with you, which is around shaping out what you want to do and achieve maybe over the next 5 years. So that's a really easy step we do as the big 101 first version and body of work with our clients, is to do, what are we going to do over the next 5 years? Where would you like to see yourself in the next 5 years? Same sort of dialogue and narrative that probably your financial planner or anyone that you work with to build out your business to support you will be asking you those bigger than Ben-Hur questions. So where would you like to see yourself and how would you like to position yourself in that 5 year? And then we reverse engineer that and start working that back. So you pull in all these different things that you like to achieve. Now, let's just not overwhelm it. You only need to fulfill 1 to 2 goals per year, depending on your ambition. But it's still okay to go, maybe in your second year, you wanted to partnership with somebody. That's a fantastic goal because you can talk to that and it's achievable and you've got the capacity to deliver on it. Remember, that's one of those important things about the core word of sustainability. Sustainability is to sustain yourself. So you need to be able to sustain your business. You need to be able to sustain your sustainability vision. So ensure that you're not going over the top, not throwing out all those statements that we hear at times, especially from government, around what we're doing and going to achieve, when you want to look tangibly, which is aligning to those trajectory goals, tangible outcomes that you can do every year. And those targets are another part attached to when we talk about your carbon emissions. So if you want to be able to have a statement piece, say in 5 years that you've reduced your carbon emissions profile by 50 or 60% or even 30%, you might be in quite a heavy carbon intensive industry. So you need to probably keep it real. You would be looking at doing that auditing. So that auditing would need to have your base year. So you would keep saying that you want to do a 30% reduction from your 2019 year, and you'd like to achieve that by, 2024, 2025. So that's what we mean around the words of targets. And targets might also be something like you want to remove no more, like you don't want to use paper, or you want to have a reduction of 90% reduction in landfill. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be carbon, carbon emission orientated. It can just be a metric, as in you want to reduce your water by 40%, which is equivalent to this much, kiloliters or megaliters, depending on what your company is, volume you want to reduce as well. So you can keep it really, really simple because they're still understandable to the everyday person who might be reading and going through it. And you know that it's achievable. And then what we would do is you would build up some narrative around how you're going to actually deliver on that. And that's really one of the most important things to remember and consider when you're pulling together these documents, how you actually are going to deliver that 80% reduction in landfill waste, or, removal of paper, or not printing anymore, or whatever that kind of thing is that you understand inside your business model that needs to be removed to help build out your sustainability strategy moving forward. So I'm going to bypass this question time part if nobody doesn't have any questions, and I'm going to grab another slide for you because I want to show you some examples of what we've done in our business model Just excuse me for a minute. Here we go. Just squeezing around, because I know what it's like when someone's talking, and you want some takeaways. So I had a slide presentation from another event we did, and I thought it'd be valuable just to actually show you what we've done to build out some of our sustainability targets, profiles, or our SDGs that we've got here. So at our company, we decided, let me go to the beginning of this slide, we decided to sort out pretty much what our main SDGs are. So we identified, we had 5 SDGs that we wanted to enact and deliver on. Now, we probably have been able to build that out and do that because we've been around for 12 years. And also the fact that we've been an environmental consultancy company. So we've sort of, it makes sense that we should have had all of that stuff sorted and had identified with it some time ago. But the SDGs have not been around for that long. So they used to be called Millennium Goals back then. So they are now the SDG goals. If you're not familiar with them, they're the Sustainable Development Goals, and they are really fantastic goals that have come out of the United Nations. It's a framework to really help at a global country and on a state and a really local level, and you can even take it as a personal level on what your duty of care is and what you're going to align to deliver sustainable outcomes. So we've chosen 5, and I'm going to just talk a little bit to how they link to those core values that we have, and some examples on how we've actually enacted and delivered on them. I'll bypass that part. So number 4, which is around education, we and you can definitely replicate some of these ones we've done. Number 4 has been a really big, huge, impactful ethos piece for us, and probably a very heart-centric for myself, because I've always been in the touch point of understanding we need to build and support the leaders of the future. And the leaders of the future for us has also not just being around ensuring that we're educating everybody, but also helping educate. As you can imagine, 12, 15 years ago, the environment industry and sector was a lot different than what it is now. And we really wanted to make sure we were leading and building and training and building up environmental students to come through and take leadership and example on how we can start driving much better and sustainable environmental outcomes and protecting and looking after our world. So we've built an internship program that's based on that ethos, and then that aligns to quality education. So we also make sure that we provide opportunities for everybody to be involved in our internship programs, and all different demographics, all different universities, to come in and work with us to help and support them, whatever phase they're at in their journey of learning towards environment and sustainability, of course. So that's one of our first examples. Our other one is when you are an environmental consultant, you pretty much dance with the dark side, and it's just the lay of the land for us in our territory. So we have worked in all different parts of quite carbon intensive industries and sectors, and we understood the importance of us ensuring that best practice around building our country and building our cities and building our roads and building, you know, commercial developments, houses, housing estates, high rises, everything that we know has to happen and progress as our country and our city economically grows, is around doing that as sustainable as possible. So one of our sort of goals that we align to is ensuring that we're embedding and supporting sustainable outcomes as well. So I hope you've got capacity here to try and think about, and I encourage you to look through all the SDGs, there's 17 of them, to go through and see what kind of things that you can link to, because it does vary between your industry and sector. And as what we've done with one of the core services that we offer, which is we do a lot of waste management plans, and we support best practice waste management with all the different sites and developments that happen all across the Southeast band here on Australia that we work on, is to ensure that we are actually pushing and ensuring that that's being met. So that's one of our sort of compliance things that we work on at GG. I'm being conscious of time. And number 12, so that one is around responsible consumption and production. So we work with businesses to work out ways that they can start reducing, which I spoke about before and gave you examples, reducing their consumption, or different ways that they could produce differently. So depending on the type of business model, we have worked with different types of councils, different types of education learning institutions. We've worked for non-for-profit organisations. We've also worked for architecture firms, to give you an example of the sort of mixed array that we've worked with, to go through and start understanding and identifying where their supply chain is and where we can actually start capturing and changing or maybe rewriting the internal system or the process, whether that's around procurement, to ensure that they can actually start fulfilling some of their sustainable outcomes, but actually reducing the amount of waste and consumption. So that's a little bit around that auditing process that I mentioned before. And the big one for that is around capturing that data. So as we know, data says pretty much everything. And so does actions as well, physical, tangible actions too. So if you can't always, you're in this first phase of building out your business and you're not able to capture data, or you're in your first year and you don't have a lot, you know, I'll give you an example soon where you could start attaching yourself to maybe some tangible outcomes that you could speak to from a bit more probably of a social impact value, which is highly just as important as doing the environmental impact value as well. So here we've got some examples of us doing some leadership work, talking and working alongside with Storyfest around how to manage waste streams and educating all of the board and the team members to really identify with how they could reshape an event like that to deliver one of their sustainable outcomes, which is obviously around the reduction and production of waste streams and reducing the consumption. So that was one of the parts. Another photo that you can see there is us doing one of those fun and funky roles of being in waste management, is doing a site audit assessment where we segregated a couple of bins to really understand the waste streams. So that type of bin audit is done when there is obviously quite a horrific amount of waste that's mixed into one general bin. And if you're really wanting to deliver outcomes, you need the data. So the data was to segregate as much waste as we could, so we could understand where is it coming from, why are you using this. You could go back to the business and go, what's this product used for? Why is it wrapped in that? What could we do? Like we did once with a restaurant. They were getting like micro herbs for the lovely garnishes. They were all in like little plastic tubs, and then these tubs were inside these big styrofoam boxes. So they were left with these boxes, and as you can imagine, they can fill rubbish bins up really quickly. So they're a part of their kind of new governance and how they were going to change their internal processes and systems around their purchasing was to say to the person that provided those micro herbs that we are not taking the way that you wrap and deliver these products anymore. So you either change the system on how you do that, deliver it in a different way, in a different format, or you need to take back those boxes and use them again and shoot them back up where they came from. So they delivered on some really good outcomes just purely around how products and services were actually delivered to them. They started to, that's where you see people starting to push and change the supply chain. And therefore, that's where the market drives the change, and you can actually get your outcomes that you're wanting to deliver on. So that bottom photo was a big one around identifying quite a lot of different wastes and a lot of different plastics, and a fair few organics as well. There was quite a lot of organics, and as we know, they are quite high in terms of methane emissions. We've got climate action. So ours is around delivering our auditing for scope 1, 2, and 3 and transitioning to carbon neutrality and purchasing our Australian carbon credit units to make sure that we are offset and we're moving across. So that was a big part of our work. So we do that work for lots of companies. We've helped various companies, especially here on the Gold Coast, one of those Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, to get their ecotourism certification. That was around delivering on their auditing of their baselines, as well as getting all their internal management and environmental systems in place. So we do a lot of that work on that. But we also, even though we deliver that body of work, we do that work for ourselves as well, ensuring that we are keeping up to speed and delivering on what we say and preach as well. So you can just see that you can link anything you want. One of your climate action outcomes for you could be that over the next 2 years, you're going, or in 2 years' time, you're going to do a carbon audit and start taking stock, or you're already starting to take stock now of what you're doing. So you can keep it really simple, or you can take it to quite a high level where we really break it down and support these things that you can see there, scope 1, 2, and 3. Those emission profiles are really big ones. But if you do want to look up what scope 1 and 2 are, 1 and 2 are probably the best ones for everyone. Scope 3 turns into high waste, but also if you've got staff members, how they travel, you would need to take in consideration, if they're traveling to work, their carbon output from their car or vehicle, however they came. You have to take in those emission profiles, because that's a part of how your business model operates, and your operating model of your business is obviously now causing staff to have to drive and use emissions. So you've got to bring that profile into you. So that's another example that we've got there. A big one for us, which is our favorite one and probably the most pivotal one we've done a lot, is around our partnerships, and inside that has really been around us doing our environmental education. So GG Enviro, we used to be called Glowing Green Australia, so we rebranded last year. We have understood it's super important that we build the leaders of the future, a little bit like that one before, but also build out actually tangibly doing something. And this is one of those ones that we can tangibly point to and showcase. So we partnered a couple of years ago with Palm Beach Surf Lifesaving Club, and came up with a really great model around where we would help them deliver one of their outcomes, being a single plastic use free surf club. Their goal a few years ago was to deliver that, and they did that. And a part of that audit and assessment was realizing and identifying that their kids' activity packs were covered in plastic with crayons, and they were shiny cardboard, and they were scattered across the table, and they were used for 10, 20 minutes, half an hour. And then all of those crayons and stickers and everything was just shoved in the bin. So we came up with a way, because that was obviously a way to reduce their waste at the end of the year. You can imagine how much of those activity packs would start filling up a rubbish bin. So we looked at what it would mean to remove that waste stream and create an education leaflet that actually speaks to environmental stuff and helps broaden out the awareness. And that supported the Surf Club, because the Surf Club had a duty of care to deliver environmental stewardship through education. So this project came together really well. We've done a few leaflets now. We're up to leaflet 3 that we just delivered. And it's a really great partnership. And that's an example where your business can do stuff like that. There's a little bit of time in terms of your hours or whatever you're delivering and giving, but it's something that you can definitely point to and deliver on inside your business model. And that might be connecting to an organization, and so much % of your profits might be linking to that. So you can sort of look at it any way that you want. So that's an example of how we've done our B2B. And we've got a few more ones in the works at the moment, which we're looking forward to delivering very soon. So that's a bit of an overhaul, I guess, for you. I know that was a bit of a shotgun on that one, but I hope that's supported you. And I just wanted, did anyone have any questions or anything that they wanted to pull my brain apart? I can see someone's asking. Hi, Larissa. A question is, a sustainability strategy something that is expected on my company website? Is it something people will notice or look for? Sam, it is definitely something that is coming up, most definitely. We have really had our company has grown exponentially over the last couple of years, which is really the core reason for that, has been around the market pushing and driving companies and businesses to have their sustainability portfolio put together. And everyone would sort of see and know how much of the last few years, climatic words, responsibility, carbon emissions, carbon sequestration, regeneration, all these different words are starting to come through. So yeah, it is definitely, you know, you can just have a one pager. It can be really simple as well and not bogged down. And we try not to go like the bigger companies, maybe we might build out max, you know, 8 pages to 10, but you don't want that going really too big at all. Inside your sustainability strategy, you can also put in some really easy ways to build it out if you want it to be 2 or 3 pages. Is just putting on a statement or words or terminology that you want to use. So, you know, you might have an exclamation or in quotes marks, you know, a statement or your ethos. And then you can have like, you know, the director or, you know, business manager or whatever you'd want to have in your name on that. So yeah, they're really, really important to have. I would definitely say it is a pivotal core part, just as much as your capability statement being on your website is to have that as well. And another question we've got here is, does a sustainability strategy or ESG need to be done by an accredited company? That is an awesome question. Great work for that one. That was Christy. To answer your question, no. You don't have to be, it doesn't, I guess, how I'm explaining to you is I'm being mindful that we might have people with businesses that are small, new and emerging, or bigger. You've got to work within your budget, but you've got to keep your intentionality there. So if your intentionality is to at least have 1 or 2 pages, go for it. And you can build it out as much as you can yourself. But getting your metrics, getting your data, and being able to really talk to and validate and speak to the fact that you have actually delivered on these carbon emissions and you can prove out that you are serious and you have done that, is where you start mostly working with people like us that will help certify you and to validate and be your third-party validators on your sustainability and your emissions profile. So building out your strategy is helpful. It's good to work with people who do this stuff all the time because you can fast track and build it out quite, you know, at a good cost-effective amount. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands, but definitely something that we can support you in whatever facet and phase that you're at. But you can go the whole hog like anything in life, and you can just go whatever serves you well, whatever you are sustainable inside your business model. So you've got to remember everyone's got to keep their businesses sustainable as well. A few people said it's cutting out, or maybe that was a little bit earlier. That's okay. So yeah, that's all I can see for questions there at the moment. Oh, hang on, we've got one more. For micro businesses run as a home business, what are some key positive steps we can make towards sustainability? That's a brilliant question. Thank you. That was Stephanie. Yes, because we've worked with 2 companies that are completely remote. So they're e-commerce companies. So I'm just pulling up in my mind now what we've done for those guys. So they have no physical tangible office. So what we've done for them is we've built out, we call it in Enviro, where we build a methodology. It's like a way that we're going to work out how we're going to calculate an emission profile or a strategy. So, I mean, the thing about the office is obviously something that's got carbon intensive things to it because it's got water, waste and energy attached to it. But you also have that if you work from home as well. So you could take a portion of time and a percentage of time of your working week out of the intensity of your home costs and expenses with water, waste and energy to kind of start trying to derive out of a full week of hours. You would break down how many hours a week that you're working. You could try and work out, you know, your emissions profile that way. So we have built that kind of methodology for some of the people that are working from home. Like this business has like 7 different sort of directors and managers of this business, this e-commerce business that work everywhere. So we've supported building that out for them and also done a little bit of an assumptions for some of them who may work in co-working spaces as well. So there's a fair few calculations out there, and you're most welcome to email me anytime, Stephanie, if you want any input in terms of where to find resources like that to try and work that out. And some positive steps that you could make is probably around if you have a PO box, maybe you might make a statement that you only visit the PO box once a week, which therefore, you know, is reducing the amount of fuel that you use to go to the PO box, or the way that, I don't know if you have like goods or services get delivered to you. You could choose to decide that you try and purchase everything from the one kind of venue or service provider. What else am I trying to think for home? Also for home, you know, you could put in place maybe, which most homes should have, but probably don't, some practical kind of things in terms of how you want to reduce your water waste and energy. But you might put in place things like your company might attach to doing maybe some local partnerships or something like that, or you're involved in some non-for-profits. So that could be a way that you can start supporting and showing your sustainability initiatives. So yeah, it's just a bit tricky unless you want to tell me exactly what your type of business is. I could probably give you some more specific answers, Stephanie, on that one. Is there any other questions or thoughts on that?
I thought I'd ask a question, Larissa. For businesses that rely on importing products from overseas, would a strategy for that be to invest in carbon credits to offset the transport?
Yeah, so as you know, like there's a lot of what we call carbon credits have had a lot of trashing over the years. Okay, so everyone hears about these carbon credits and carbon farming and carbon this and carbon that, and then you know, they're not really worth their weight in gold, but they are like they're the biggest, fastest, most important, valuable thing that we have for this economy of Australia to really double down on building out our Australian carbon credits. So when we do that auditing work, we actually take companies to become carbon neutral. So something that I encourage you to look up is something called Climate Active. So Climate Active is a federal government platform that certifies and is the only certified validating platform in Australia that's acknowledged by the Australian government for different companies, businesses, their products and services. And it can be like events as well. They've got like 5 or 6 different pillars that you can certify in. And when we take a company through that certification process, like we're currently in the middle of another one at the moment, is we do all your emissions profiles. So we'll come out and do all your auditing, and then we go, okay, so your 2019 baseline year, you emitted 2,000 tons of carbon. Okay, so what you need to do is purchase 2,000 tons of carbon credits to become what we call carbon neutral. So that gets you back down to 0. But you can also purchase more, which would put you more in front as well. So those carbon credits will have a dollar metric value to them. So there's been quite a lot of value on top of those at the moment. They've moved anywhere from like $25, $30 all the way up to $65 per ton, per ton, sorry, I should say, for a unit. So if you had emitted 2,000, obviously it's going to be 2,000 times the price that you're buying per ton. There's all different types of carbon credits that you can get. You can get really cheap ones overseas, solar and different types of ones over there. But you can get ones over here in Australia, which have a lot more social just and duty of care on the validness of them. And also they seem more reputable and they seem more, I guess they have this presence about them that if you're a company and you're buying Australian carbon credit units, instead of cheap ones that are like, you know, $5, $10 in India, you know, it kind of, you can already pick up on the tone of how that would be. So yeah, that's definitely in answer to your question, a way that if there's no way around that, you have to do your best to, you can't mitigate and reduce that any more than you can if it's overseas travel, that you would be buying and offsetting the whole operations for your business. So when we do the audit, we'd be taking in, how I mentioned before, all that travel, how everything gets to your company and then it goes out. So we would be bringing that profile in, measuring all of that. And then you as a client would go and we'd help you choose your carbon credits and you'd offset it. Then that's how you become carbon neutral. Then you have to do that every year. So you don't just do it one shot. You need to be buying your carbon credits every year to be carbon neutral every year. And then you need to also show that you are actually making an effort to reduce your emissions every year as well. So the Australian government don't just allow for this sneaky greenwash where you emit tons and tons and tons of carbon, and then just because you've got lots of money, you can just buy it all and you just can't be bothered changing your business model or your practices or your management on how you reduce your carbon emissions. So there's a component in place that if you aren't actually reducing your emissions over a certain time, you won't be able to get your neutrality. So you've got to actually be progressive and take accountability and action on that.
So it's not a set and forget thing, is it? It's something you need to revisit. Would you say annually or every 6 months?
Yeah. So say your company in 2019 did 2,000, let's keep it simple again, 2,000 tons of carbon. And we've done your audits and we've done your 2020, 2021 are very skewed data, as everyone knows. So it's completely skewed. So we're sort of coupling, trying to do the best for a lot of companies through that auditing, because obviously everything has dropped quite a bit. And then obviously ramping up and going into 2022, their emissions profile will sort of be a lot higher than what it was in 2020, 2021, which is good when it reduced that way, but it spikes back up again. So you have to do yearly auditing because it's all around, it's like doing your taxation and stuff. Every year it's different. Every year your business would be growing and scaling. It's the same thing. Your taxes will go up and your carbon emissions are going up if you haven't put in place that strategy, which I talked about, the emissions plan. How are you actually going to reduce your emissions? Because you want to get your target reached. If you want your target to be a 50% reduction on your 2019 carbon emissions, that means by say 2023 or 4, 5-year plan, you wanted to reduce it by 50%. So that means you have to be reducing it by 1,000 tons of carbon. So by 2024, when we do your audit, you need to be operating in your company only emitting 1,000 tons. And if it isn't, then we need to look at, well, what's been happening and what's going on. And you would need to keep, obviously, every year you've got to do your carbon offsets and ensuring that you're purchasing your carbon offsets. So yeah, it's a yearly thing, absolutely. And a lot of companies, we also do their audits quarterly as well, because it works well for them to check the profile on how they're tracking through the year. So it's, everyone knows, more smaller increments of data sometimes are more valuable when you're actually trying to really crush down and get some quick, hard, fast outcomes. So we do quarterly auditing for a lot of companies as well. But yes, to answer your question, it's an annual thing.
Great. And are there any simple auditing tools that, small businesses could use for their business? Anything online or calculators that can help them, sort of come up with what they're emitting and how they could improve?
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a lot out there. There's many different calculators. I can flick a few examples of some in a follow-up email or something if you do that, Danielle. But it's just go online and look for some calculators. You'll see there's a fair few out there, depending on what you're trying to calculate and work out the emissions profile on your water, waste, or energy. A lot of our bills now actually have a bit of an emissions profile. So you can see there, obviously, on electricity, it sits there. But yeah, if you're just wanting to kind of get a good idea and just get a bit of a touch point, definitely it's something that you can find online. There's lots of resources and availability for that now. And it's just a matter of clunking away on an Excel and punching in a few different columns there. to start tracking and working out, where you're at. If you're at home, it's easy to work on your bills that you get through from your household bills. If you're in a company, you might want to do it more quarterly, you might want to do it every 6 months. So yeah, it's up to you which way you do it. But yeah, easy steps first. You can just start that and get a bit of a gauge of where you're at. And then you can kind of look at, oh, is it possible for me to really start, dropping this down by 10, 20, 30% over the next couple of years.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, has there anyone else had any more questions? Can't see anything.
No, can't see anything else, but yeah, that's it. But anyone, yeah, you can easily hit me up on LinkedIn if you've got any questions as well. It's sometimes a quick, easy way. And then doing an email to answer any questions.
Yeah, definitely. And I can send out a follow-up email as well if you have any links. Obviously, I'll send out the recording in the next sort of 2 weeks or so when I get some time to do that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Larissa. That was really interesting. And it's amazing how you can go to find simple strategies for the smaller businesses, and then the bigger ones, bigger steps you can take as you grow. So that was really, really interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're most welcome. Not a worry at all. Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Good night, everyone.